Hello guys, and welcome back to the channel. Game week 17 is just around the corner, and in today's video we're going to look at who the best transfer targets are for the coming weeks, as well as what I plan to do with my own team. First of all, let's get the video to 10 likes, and before we get into game week 17, let's take a look at how game week 16 went. Green Arrow this week was 63 points and finally back in the top million, landing in around the 800k mark, taking the long road back to where we belong. Decided to take a detour between weeks 8 and 12, but we're back on track, slowly but surely getting that rank back. It was a strange week with all the premiums scoring low and mostly blanking. You could argue that it was actually nice not to have a week where it was decided by one huge captaincy haul versus another. My week started pretty well as most of my players were involved in the Saturday games, so that's where most of my gains came. It was pretty nervy waiting for the Chelsea game after I captained Salah, who only came away with an assist, but it actually ended up being the only premium to get any returns unless you considered Son. Well done if you had him. Raya managed 6 points with his clean sheet in Arsenal's 0-0 draw with Everton. Arsenal's defence still proving its worth, but if you're an Arsenal fan, I don't imagine you'll be happy with that one, even if you did get the FPL points. The big one this week was Lewis Hall's haul. He got 15 points in Newcastle's 4-0 win against Leicester, getting 2 assists, the clean sheet and all 3 bonus points. Alexander-Arnold was one of my transfers in this week and came straight into the team, but only managed 1 point. Unfortunately, Liverpool conceded pretty early on against Fulham, and then things went from bad to worse when Robertson got sent off before the 20th minute, leaving Liverpool a man down for the majority of the game. Aït-Nouri played in his favoured wing-back position again, but no returns this week as Wolves conceded in the last minute to lose the game. The Wolves players subsequently lost their heads, and Aït-Nouri managed to get himself a red card after the final whistle, so -2 for him. As I said, I was pretty nervy waiting for the Chelsea game to see what Palmer was going to do, but he ended up blanking the week after a massive 18-point haul. Still managed a bonus point, which just shows how involved he is even when he doesn't return. Salah was my captain and ended on 10 with 1 assist. Who knows what it could have been if Liverpool had 11 for the whole game. If you gambled and went away from the premiums with your captaincy this week, then well done to you. I can imagine some big gains if you chose the right players. Let me know in the comments below if you went differential and how big was the rank gain. Enzo was my other transfer last week and he ended up on 5 points with an assist. Although it would have rather it didn't go to Jackson, who I don't own, so the gain wasn't as much as it could have been. Unfortunately, the player that Enzo came in for scored himself, and Buemo managed to squeeze one past Chelsea in the 90th minute, which was not ideal. Isaac had another brilliant game. He was unreal and came away with 11 points, scoring and getting an assist. It could have been more, but I can't moan. His ownership is just going to shoot up every week, so I'll make the most of it before he's essential because of ownership. Cunha scored Wolves' only goal and got all 3 bonus points, leaving him on 9. But he was also involved in the aftermath of the game and was lucky not to get sent off himself after putting his hand directly into one of the coach's faces, ripping off his glasses. He may yet receive a retrospective ban, but I'll talk about that more later on in the video and who might be the best replacements. Last and maybe least, João Pedro, another blank for him and a player that only seems to get points when I don't own or play him. I missed out on the 2 double-digit returns in 11 and 12, and I also benched him game weeks 2 and 3 when he got 8 points in both weeks. Seems to be a cursed player for some unknown reason. Anyway, now that we've gone over game week 16, let's move on to some fixture swings and transfer targets. But before we do that, subscribe to the channel. Crazier than any of the Wolves players is the fact that only 2.5% of people watching the content are subscribed. Let's start with the fixture swings, and the only one this week is Fulham. Off the back of a few tougher fixtures in Arsenal and Liverpool, where they actually did quite well in terms of results, they now have a nicer run for the next 6 weeks, playing all 3 promoted teams, as well as struggling West Ham. They also have some very viable options to possibly get into your team. One of those is Anthony Robertson in Fulham's defence. What makes him such a good choice is the fact that he's a great replacement for the suspended Aït-Nouri, and he cost the same amount at 4.8 million. He's got great attacking data, but he does largely lean towards the assist side of things. Many of us started with him in game week 1, and I expect more than a few will revert back. Gabriel's back to number 1 now he's confirmed fit, as well as Arsenal being the best defence in the league by a considerable margin. He's also a massive threat in front of goal. Despite the blank in game week 16, Trent is still up there. He's got the best attacking data of any defender over the season. He's a better option than Van Dijk in my opinion because of the attacking data, but if your budget doesn't allow you Trent and you still want a Liverpool defender, Van Dijk is still a great option and a threat from corners. Timber is another one you might look at as a cheap way into the Arsenal defence. At just 5.7 million, he's cheaper than both Gabriel and Saliba. I would definitely go Gabriel over him if you have the budget, but Timber has solidified himself as a 90-minute man in recent weeks. The fact that Ben White and others in the Arsenal defence have been suffering with injuries lately helps, but he's guaranteed minutes for the foreseeable future. Munoz has one of the best attacking data sets of any defender recently. 0.38 goal involvements per 90 between game weeks 11 and 16 beats out even Trent, who historically outperforms every other defender by a considerable margin. He's another great replacement for 8 Nuri, but you won't be able to play him this week as he's serving a ban for yellow cards. Not that you would necessarily have wanted to play him against Arsenal though. Robertson is still my number 1 replacement for 8 Nuri, but Munoz is a close second. There's also a scenario in which I would transfer Munoz in this week despite not being able to play in game week 17. If it's for 8 Nuri, you have cover for 17, it's free, and an 8 Nuri drop would price you out of the move. I would do it as a luxury transfer, but I highly doubt anyone will be in that specific scenario. Fernandes remains the midfielder with the best creativity outside of the premiums, so he'll stay as my top pick for the midfielders. He's on penalties, and United have got some tougher fixtures out of the way. After a slow start to the season under Ten Hag, he seems to be playing well under Amorim, and he has 4 goals and 4 assists since the previous manager left. Bowen is still a great choice in my opinion, even though West Ham are doing so poorly. He's been starting up front at the moment also, but they do have to play Liverpool and Man City after the Southampton game, so the fixtures are very mixed. Gordon may well prove to be a better choice in the long run, or even Mbeumo, despite what I've been saying the past few weeks. He has all of a sudden started producing again. Amad Diallo has absolutely shot up my rankings after the last few performances. He seems to be a shining light in this transitional Man United team, and with Garnacho and Rashford proving out of favour, Mount's new injury, he's only really competing with Antony for places, and we all know who's going to win that battle. A goal and an assist against City, taking his tally to 2 and 7 in the Premier League this season. He's played 90 minutes in every game bar one since the fixture against Leicester in game week 11. Amazing value at 5.2 with great data. He's such a good enabler, probably the best in the game at this moment in time. I decided to go for Enzo as my enabler last week instead, and he was my second transfer in. He didn't manage to beat Amad's points, but he did get himself an assist, making it 6 games in a row with a return. Chelsea's fixtures are still better than Man United's, and at the moment, they are the better team. But I would now go Amad over Enzo if I hadn't already made the move. I just think Amad will get into more attacking positions and get more returns in the long run. Alex Iwobi is the second Fulham player in my list this week. As we discussed with Robinson, Fulham's fixtures turn in game week 17, where they have Southampton, and they're pretty good going forward as well. Iwobi is actually the 7th highest scoring midfielder this season, costing just 5.7 million, and he's only 5% owned. He could be a great differential. Alexander Isak is the best forward option in the game at this time for me. Newcastle have been up and down this season, and Isak didn't start too well himself, but he's shown in the past few weeks why we all had him at the start of the season. He's now scored 3 games in a row, and 2 of the past 3 games he brought in double digits. He gets over 1 big chance a game, so a goal almost feels like an inevitability. I still have him slightly ahead of Jackson, if I could only have one, but I think if you have both with Pedro as a third, that would be the strongest position you could be in forward-wise. Jackson has great fixtures, but he's still on 4 yellow cards, so if you have or are planning to put him in, just be aware of that. I also still don't think he's guaranteed to play every game, or at least every minute, like Isak is. I still don't think we can look past Pedro at his price. I know he's blanked 2 games in a row now, but he's a penalty taker that costs just 5.7 million, and what he allows you to have elsewhere in your 11 is invaluable. Cunha is a pretty big talking point this week with a potential ban incoming. At the time of recording, he's been charged by the FA and has until Thursday the 19th to respond, but I can't see it going well for him. Whether or not the ban will take him out of the game against Leicester, we're yet to see. I definitely think a ban is incoming though, so I would look to get him out, but would prioritise 8 Nuri if you have both. The best replacement is Isak if you don't already have him and can afford the upgrade, but there are other good options. Wood, as we know, has been a scoring machine this season, only second to Haaland in terms of forward points. He may be the best cheaper option to go for, but his non-penalty expected goals has only been 0.15 per 90 over the past 6 game weeks. Another possible option going forward is Mateta. Crystal Palace look improved recently, and his big chance data even beats out Isak's, and with similar minutes is only second to Haaland's. Not one I would do this week as they play Arsenal, but certainly one to keep an eye on. I also think Jimenez deserves a shout out, as we've already spoken about Fulham, but he seems to be sharing his minutes with Muniz at the moment. Looking into game week 17, and I've got 1 transfer this week, and it's looking like I will be using it on 8 Nuri. I could just put him on the bench and play Diallo over him this week, but Wolves really only have 1 good fixture left before their fixtures turn for the worst, and he won't even be playing in that. I spoke about who I thought were good options to replace him earlier, like Robinson and Munoz, but I have 1.7 million in the bank, and I still don't own Gabriel, so for me, personally, that would be the obvious choice. I actually already made this transfer early as Gabriel fell in price this week, and I wanted to get in before the 8 Nuri fall. I plan to have him out next week anyway, so why wait when he's suspended? There may also be an option to replace Cunha for a -4 if we hear any more news on his potential but almost certain ban. I think it's unlikely I'd do that though, as I have cover if he's unavailable for this week. The ideal would be just to wait, and if he gets a ban, make a transfer after the game week 17 deadline before his inevitable drop in price. All that being said, I think this is how I will line up going into game week 17, providing nothing crazy happens. Rayo will remain in goal for the game against Palace following his clean sheet against Everton. I have Lewis Hall in at the moment, but this could easily be Diallo. Hall's just coming off of a 15-pointer, which is a bit of an anomaly if I'm being honest, but he does also have the easier fixture against Ipswich. This will probably be a deadline decision on the day. Completely opposite to last week, every single player is playing away from home this week. This may be a reason I go for Diallo instead, as Man United do play at Old Trafford. Trent stays in the back line for Liverpool's game against Spurs. I'm hoping for an open game in which Trent can get forward and that Liverpool also keep 11 players on the pitch this time. Gabriel comes straight in and makes a double up on Arsenal's defence. I had this earlier on in the season and it didn't really go that well, so if Arsenal's defence breaks, you know who to blame. Palmer stays in the team for Chelsea's fixture away at Everton, a fixture that may seem nailed, but Everton have been much better defensively recently. They're second only to Arsenal for expected goals conceded per 90 over the last 6 games. That being said, Chelsea are also the best attack over the same period. Saka keeps his place despite the recent blanks, 3 in a row now, but he's sure to come good at some point. No plans to take him out. Rodgers stays on the bench in favour of Enzo this week as Villa play City, although that isn't as easy as a decision as it has been in the past years and could still change last minute. Enzo is on a roll though, so at the moment he gets the nod. At the moment I'm putting the armband on Salah for their game against Spurs. Again, as I said for Trent, I think this will be a really open game. The front three all have pretty nice fixtures, starting with Pedro playing West Ham and Isak playing Ipswich. Isak is also a shout for captaincy this week and would be a great differential. Cunha also makes a starting 11 for his game against Leicester, but if we hear he's banned for game week 17, he'll move to the bench for either Diallo or Rodgers. I would always choose the attacker over the defender in these cases, so Rodgers would be the most likely. Anyway guys, that's it for another week. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe to the channel for more FPL content throughout the season. Check out some of my other videos and go and take a look at my new TikTok account under the same name, FPL Pinnacle, for more short form content. Wishing you luck for the upcoming game week, and I'll see you in the next one.